So how old were you when you converted?
So I was, it would be 31.
And Chase, I want to hear, once you converted, what was your dating experience like?
But other than knowing I'm looking for my other half, I have no idea what that looks like. And I don't even know what from dating looks like at all.
3.5 months after you got divorced, your father passed away.
Yeah.
How did you cope from that? And I've heard such beautiful things about your father.
I don't know how I coped. So it was really hard at first. So it did take me time to start dating again. The one that actually suggested both of us was my father's charusa. So he actually learned with my father 2 hours before he passed away. He was really close with my father. He loved my father.
He says, Chase, I think I have a shidduch recommendation for you. Are you opening to hear it?
It was after my father's first year outside already, and everything was really coming back together. Hashem's like, okay, you're ready now. And yeah, I found Chase.
Welcome back to another episode of Stories of Hope. I'm your news anchor, Tzipora Grodko. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I'm your podcast host, Tzipora Grodko, and I want to say thank you to all of our SOH family members that have helped us get to this place. Your voice matters. I want to read a recent post that someone made on last week's video. Wow, this couple was so raw and real about their story. Wow, wow, wow. I really liked them a lot. Thank you, Evan and Shiffy, for sharing your story. Thank you to Tzipora and Meaningful Minute for this awesome platform. It is so real and powerful. That's the purpose of Stories of Hope. Authentic and powerful, action and inspiration. And we want to continue to hear from you. So this week, for your chance to win $200, let us know who is one person from Tanakh, who is one person in Jewish history. It could be someone that's alive, someone that's no longer living, that you would like to meet. Write down their name in the comment section below for your chance to win $200 from Meaningful People, Stories of Hope, Meaningful Minute, the whole branch. Now, this week, I am so excited to introduce you to Chase and Tehila Kaplan. Woo, what a couple. What a couple. So honest, so raw, and so brave. And when you comment to let the couples know what you thought of the episode, it not only gives them chizuk, gives them strength for taking the brave steps forward to sharing, but you never know if it will inspire someone else to come forward and share their story. So thank you and keep it up. Tehila and Chase's story highlights a whole different demographic, what it's like for a convert navigating shidduchim in the Orthodox community, what it's like for someone who has experienced loss, divorce, getting back into the dating scene of the Orthodox community, and of course, reflecting so much divine intervention, hashgacha pratis, in teaching us that while we're waiting, something is brewing, something is growing, and there is always a plan in our best interests. Stay tuned and enjoy this beautiful story of hope.
But first, an important message from our friends at JOMASHOP. I was recently in Scotland and London and saw someone with a beautiful watch. I asked them where it was from, and it's from JOMASHOP. They have over 1,000 brands carrying over 75,000 products in the field of accessories, fragrances, jewelry, watches, whatever you want, they have it. They have over 1 million reviews. As a company that's been around since 1999, JOMASHOP really has everything you want. When I was in the London airport, I saw a pair of sunglasses I wanted. I always get sunglasses at the airport because then it's duty free. But I checked JOMASHOP and it was actually cheaper to purchase them from JOMASHOP. So thank you, JOMASHOP, for providing the best prices, the best accessories. If you want to make a purchase for you, a loved one, a friend, an anniversary, a birthday, you don't need to waste time looking anywhere else. Go to JOMASHOP. I can guarantee you they won't just have what you need, but they'll probably have more. And the best part is if you put down in the discount code SOH120 to receive $120 off your purchase of $3,000 or more. So go to jomashop.com to find the best product for the best price from the best place. Hi, I'm Tzipora Grodko, and this is the Stories of Hope podcast. Today we have the pleasure of being with a good friend of mine, Tehila, and her husband, Chase, who I have not yet met. So, Chase, nice to meet you.
It's really a pleasure.
I'm a big fan.
I am as well.
We're going to jump right in. Why don't we start with you, Chase? Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I definitely have a somewhat unusual background. I grew up in the same area we're living in now. So we're in Long Branch, New Jersey now. I was in West Long Branch growing up. For anyone who's not local, that's in the Deal area, which is in the greater Lakewood area, if you want to call it that, and everyone knows that. So I grew up essentially secular Reform Jewish, like most people in that. It's a very Tinuk Shinishba world. My parents were going there not out of any sort of specific choice of that, but more just that was the shul we went to, and compared to the other public school kids who weren't going to shul at all, it was actually a really beautiful experience for the most part. But after being in that world long enough, when you're looking for emes and depth, as I got older, it really wasn't satisfying me in that way. So a very, very, very long, very complicated journey that we obviously aren't going to have time for today, ensued. And it really ended up with me starting to, really learn real Torah and find that all the emes I had been looking for over a decade and longer was all to be found there. And with increasing layers of depth, I became more and more convinced that that's where I wanted to be. And so, of course, we're all always on a journey for our whole lives, but the journey got much more deep and beautiful as I started to learn more about what it means to be a Jew, about what Torah really is, and so found myself really, really blessed, since I was still living in the same area, to be in such a beautiful community that I didn't know existed. I mean, I knew from growing up there that there were a lot of Jews in the area, but I had no idea that there was such a rich, religious community there. And as soon as Hashem thought I was ready to meet everyone, all of a sudden, everything just started connecting and coming together. We're really blessed that we're.
How old were you at that time?
So the journey started, from before I can remember, and the journey sort of got more serious around my mid-20s, 24, 25, 26. And then, of course, at some point in the journey, around 26, 27, I found out that halachically, even though my father's entire side's Jewish and my mother's father's technically Jewish as well, because my mother's not, that means my mother's not, which means I'm not halachically Jewish, or wasn't at the time. And so that turned what I thought was already a long tshuva journey into a not quite as long, but still very deep, beautiful, complex Gerus journey. And I completed that about 3.5 years ago through based in Bergen County, which is with the Rabbinical Council of America. Either way, I did it the most official way I could find to do, or the most universally accepted, because after going that long thinking that you're Jewish, I didn't want to, do everything, do everything right.
Were you an observant Jew when you found out that you were not considered Jewish?
So I was already increasingly observant.
Okay.
I was, how would I say? I was almost to a point that I was fully keeping Shabbos and fully keeping Kashrus. I wasn't quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, compared to where I started, not keeping any at all, it was pretty far into the journey. But as I found that out, it just sort of everything tied together so beautifully. And of course, by the time the Beis Din was ready, I was certainly ready. So it was.
And wow.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you converted?
So I was, it would be 31.
31.
I had just turned 31.
And how old are you now?
And now I'm 34.
34. Wow. And what's your mom's background?
So my mother is, her father's mother's side is German Jewish. Last name is Bornheim. Her father's father, I believe, Irish, and then her mother's Filipino, or was Filipino.
German, Irish, and Filipino.
Yeah.
Take that for like a J screen test, right?
And then my father's side's just through Vilna. So which is wonderful, but it's a little simpler.
Okay. Wow.
Nice blend.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I know there's so many questions we have, but for the sake of the interview, thank you for really consolidating it down and leaving us with a little bit of a teaser to wonder what comes next. Tehila, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I grew up in Monsey. I grew up with Balchuva parents. So we did grow up a little bit different than everybody else in Monsey. My father did go towards the, how do you say it? Towards the ultra-religious side. And my mom grew up more modern. She decided her and her siblings were going to go to yeshiva, so they decided to go to Beis Yaakov. So yeah, we grew up a little bit different.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about, what'd you say?
I have nothing interesting like him.
Oh, you know what? Everyone always thinks that their story is not interesting. Whenever we bring someone on, they say, in contrast to everyone else you had, we don't have a story. And then after 35 to 40,000 views and comments of, I'm so inspired and this was so unique, they realize, oh, everyone has a story.
Yeah.
So
I'm just lucky that it's obvious that mine's so different, but we all forget how different each one of us, our stories really are.
That's true. So tell us a little bit about what your dating experience was like.
So my dating experience was actually really hard. I dated a lot of guys. I was the type where I was kind of one and done. I didn't always get past the first date. I feel like I really, really, really knew what I was looking for. I knew what I was looking for. I'm extremely in tune. I can figure things out quickly. I can tell right away if someone has certain personality traits I didn't like. I think I was lucky that a lot of traits and different things came out quickly with me on the first date. You know, someone talking about different things, and automatically I knew that was never for me. I have quite a few stories that now are laughable. So it was never easy because when you're talking to a shadchan, they don't really know who you are. They don't really know you. They don't really know your background. They don't really know what you're looking for. So if I couldn't always explain why a guy wasn't for me, a lot of times I would get, no, just try it again. I don't think your excuse is valid, or no, but he can change. He can change. Like, I think that's one thing I got a lot, that no, he can change. You can change this about this person. So it definitely was frustrating. I got a lot of times, since my family is very dynamic, very different, I did get a lot of, well, you can't be so picky because your parents are about chuvas. Your sister married this kind of guy. Your other sister married this kind of guy. So if you're looking for this type of guy, you're not going to find that. I think, at your age, just anyone could change, just find someone. Just a lot of interesting comments. And I had one shadchan, I think I had shared this story with you, who's just kind of making fun in a way of like, oh, you're married before. Oh, Nebuch, that's going to be so much harder for you. Or just like really like putting me down. And yeah, my dating experience was not very fun. But then when I did start dating Chase, like right away, I was like, okay, this is different. By the second date, I knew I was going to marry him. But
whoa, okay, so pause you there. So in your dating experience, initially you had shadchanim that because they didn't understand you, they limited your options based on their perception of what they thought you should get. And what do you wish you could have told them? To anyone that's listening, that unknowingly that's their attitude. They think, based on what I see, this is what this person should get. That's something we really want to dismantle. And everyone means well, and shadchanim dedicate their life to this. And everyone wants to be better. So what's something that you wish you could have told them?
I wish they would have just listened to me and just trust me. Some things maybe were different that I said. I always said I'm going to marry a ger bal tshuva. I always said that, like from a very young age. My like I said, my father was Baal Tshuva, my mom was Baal Tshuva. I married a Ger Baal Tshuva in the end, but I always knew that I was going to marry a Ger Baal Tshuva. So meaning that if there is somebody that is telling you they want something different or telling you more detail what they want, really just listen. Because at the end of the day, if we're old enough to get married, we're old enough to think for ourselves. So we do know ourselves. And especially when you're dating enough guys, you do really know what for sure won't work for you. So if you say, no, I don't think I want to date any this type. And there's like, no, I think you should still try it. Just listen to the person because we know ourselves. We know what we want. So
I'm
really
hearing
just
like
listen.
have respect. Have respect that this person is in charge of their decisions. Don't
Absolutely.
make decisions for them.
Absolutely. Just, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And what was it like for you after you got divorced to navigate back into the shidduch world when you already felt like you were misunderstood and now you were in this place that maybe people couldn't understand or respect?
So it was really hard at first. It did take me some time. My father passed away 3.5 months after I had gotten divorced. So it was very fresh. So it did take me time to start dating again. But I feel like I did already know what I actually truly did not want. Like I feel like it made me almost stronger in a way to put my foot down more. I already became a tougher person just from everything. So I was really able to be like, obviously in a really nice way, I'm really sorry, but this is not what I'm looking for. Even if I was trying to be, they're trying to convince me or, anything like that. I think I just like tried to trust myself more, tried to trust people that I trust, just try to trust people that I know really know me. And it was definitely a little easier this time.
Wait, Tehila, pause. 3.5 months after you got divorced, your father passed away.
Yeah.
How did you cope from that? And I've heard such beautiful things about your father.
I don't know how I coped.
How many years has it been since he passed away?
It's been 2 years.
2 years.
July was 2 years. So
nobody should ever lose a parent, and I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
yeah.
How did you cope? How did you cope?
And
it's okay if you also didn't cope. That would make more sense to me.
Yeah, there were a lot of moments that were much harder than others. But one thing that really helped actually was really just to remember different things my father had told me and that we had spoken about. Of course, after I got divorced, there were a lot of hardships. There were a lot of crying. There's a lot of just trying to put my life back together. So there were a lot of beautiful things that he had said. Even a beautiful voice note he had once sent me. Just listening to those and remembering those moments really, 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 truly helped. So I tried to really change everything around to think of the really good times, and that really helped a lot, actually.
And how old are you now?
I am 27.
You're 27, and how long have you been married for?
6 months and 2 weeks.
6 months and a little bit over that. Yeah.
He's like looking at his watch.
Yeah, the exact date. I guess it was almost 2. Yeah.
So,
we keep track of our first date was December 10.
Yeah.
Like we keep track of like every day. It's very important for us. They're very memorable days.
I love that. So you were 27. You were 30.
34. Actually, our first date.
So it's almost both of our birthdays.
Yeah. Funny enough, the December, my at least secular calendar birthday is December 11th. So on our first date, I had said something about 34. And she said, I thought your resume said 33. And I said, yeah, but tomorrow's my birthday. Like when I made the dating resume,
it was right
it was,
happy 6-month anniversary.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back to our episode. But first, you have to check out Pizza Biza, making fresh hot pizzas on the spot by their professional chefs, indoor or outdoor in their pizza ovens, meat or dairy, plus full catering around the tri-state area and Florida. Specializing in events with several hundred people with no lines. You heard right. Full menu. You have to check them out on Instagram at Pizza Biza and visit them at pizzabiza.com. Best part, mention Meaningful Minute and get $500 off your next event. Pizza's my favorite food, so please invite me. Pizza Biza on Instagram and check them out at pizzabiza.com. say Meaningful Minute and get $500 off your next event. These are the people you want to call. Pizza Biza, I'll see you at my next event. We'll be right back. But first, a really cool message from our friends at Growtha. If you want help transforming website traffic, becoming #1 at Google, I made a new friend who works at Google who told me what Growtha does is how you want to do it. Growtha does SEO for over 100 healthcare companies, from addiction treatment centers, ABA therapy companies, nursing homes, home care agencies, you name it, they do it. These are the people you want to call if you want to increase the success of your business. It's really just a matter of statistical, technical work. Call Growtha, call our friend Josh, let him know you heard about his exceptional company from us, and receive 10% off when you mention Stories of Hope. You no longer need to spend so much time trying to gain traction in these healthcare industries. All you need to do is schedule a call with Growtha, and they will tell you how you can increase your success with a 10% off discount once you mention Stories of Hope to our friend Josh. So again, if you have a nursing home, assisted living facilities, addiction treatment center, ABA therapy, this is the place you want to go to. Call Growtha, find them in the show notes below, growtha.com, and mention Stories of Hope for 10% off to our friend Josh. Tehila, what might you tell someone who's navigating dating without a parent? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that can relate to you.
Don't be afraid to call up someone you're close to. In my case, I had spoken to my mom as a really, really close friend who happens to be a shadchan, and just telling them to help you, just telling them to, call anyone that needs to be called, just kind of having them be your parent. And practical level, really just call someone up that you're really close with or that you trust, and just ask them for help. Just ask them to be your parent, because it's really hard to do phone calls. It's really hard to really check into people. It really is hard. So even if you've had a hard time with anyone trying to match you up, it really is important to just be like, can you act like my parent in this situation? In terms of a spiritual level, remember that they are looking down at us. They are right next to Hashem, talking to Hashem, having, just having so many moments to just be like, Hashem, give my child their shidduch. Like I really, really feel like my father had the biggest part in it. I mean, I did have a dream right before our vart that like really made me less nervous about, oh my goodness, am I marrying the right one and all of that. I had a really beautiful dream right before. So that really showed me that my father was really there. So
I'm not going to let you stop there. You're telling us that dream. Unless it's private, then you don't need to tell us.
I could tell you the dream. So my father was a really special person. He really was. So the dream was, I think our vart was on a Sunday. The dream was Thursday before.
Sorry, what's your father's Hebrew name?
David Yehoshua.
So can we make this episode in L'Zecher Nishmas David Yehoshua ben Shmuel?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a very interesting dream. What was interesting, my father was in the dream, but it was my mom that was the messenger, which was very interesting. So my mom went over to my father. He said he had a message. He was in a different room, and he was sitting by a table with tons of rabbeim, like the biggest rabbeim. He was sitting and learning with them, which I thought it was so cool because it was such a vivid dream. I was just like seeing all these rabbeim. It was so cool. So it was like Hashem was in one corner, and then he was sitting at a table. There was tons of svarim out, and like shtenders and svarim. Like I just remember seeing tons of like rabbeim that I recognized. And my father told my mother, so Hashem gave me so much good up here. I have so much good. And Hashem wanted to give me something else. But I told Hashem, you gave me so much good up here. I think it's time to give Tehila a chase. And like, the name was Chase. So Chase's Hebrew name is Ariel Baruch. But it wasn't Ariel Baruch. It was Chase. I think that was so cool that my mom came over to me and told me that. And I just remember like waking up from that dream and like all this anxiety of like, oh no, am I marrying the wrong one? Like, I don't know, just kind of melted away. Like it was so vivid. It was so interesting. It was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds so comforting.
Yeah. And there were a lot of things that, my father had told me. I said this before, but there are a lot of things my father had told me that just helped me like get through dating and realize that, the one for me is going to come soon. I think I mentioned this when we were on phone call. So one thing that all of a sudden popped into my head after I found my actual soulmate and I found Chase was, I remember, so it was about 2 weeks before my father passed away. I was just a mess. I was just crying. I was just a mess. I was, I think I'm such a good person. I try so hard to just be good and to just, do good by Hashem and why did this all happen? I just want to be married by now. I just want to have a family by now. I just wanted to like be settled by now and just have my life started, and my father told me something, and I remember almost the exact words, which was, did you ever think that the person you are meant to marry isn't ready for you yet? And I love that line. And after I met Chase and heard Chase's story, when we were dating, I really, it all of a sudden clicked. Because when I was previously married, Chase was only in middle of converting, like in middle of the last bit of the journey right before he converted.
Literally not ready.
Yeah. So if I would have met Chase when we were, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, 21, Chase was still reformed then. Chase was still not.
Yeah, that exact point, I was totally secular. I wasn't even reformed at that point. I would have been more of a, yeah.
And Chase literally wasn't ready. And then Chase started dating when I think I was probably still married when Chase was just starting to date. And then I needed to grow. I needed to become tougher and stronger and just more resilient. And then I feel like just when everything started settling down and when I finally felt like, okay, I think everything is coming back together. It was after my father's first year at site already and everything was really coming back together. Hashem's like, okay, you're ready now. And I found Chase.
You're unbelievable. If we weren't on camera, I'd give you a hug. But we're on camera, so I'm going to tell you that I want to give you a hug out of respect, not out of pity, out of so much respect and admiration. Whoa, Chase.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like they say that before someone passes away, they really just, their neshama knows. So there are certain things that they say or they can prepare you. So there were a lot of different stories like that, but of what my father has said to people. But this was one where he just wanted that to be in my head. Like he just wanted me to always remember that. And definitely sticks with me. I definitely keep remembering that because it helps me when I start thinking, why did I have to previously be married? Why did I have to go through that? It really just reminds me, no, I had to be the person ready to meet Chase, and Chase had to begin his journey to be the person that I'm meant to marry. We all change from our experiences. We grow from our experiences. We become smarter from our experiences and stronger, So I had to go through what I went through, and Chase had to go through his journey and what he went through, and finally we were perfect for each other.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's so hard, but it's always so important. The best attitude to have, which you've clearly got your PhD in, which is that there's purpose to pain and nothing is by happenstance. Every experience we have is giving us an opportunity to evolve into a person that's supposed to create impact or change or experience a new level of life in a way that we could not have had if we had not gone through what we went through. Yeah. And it's hard because we don't have answers. And answers give us closure. And that's where the Emunah and Bitachon comes in. And I really appreciate your honesty. Everyone can relate to pain. Everyone has it. Everyone listening is on their own chapter in this place of like, but why Hashem? But why Hashem? And remembering and seeing through your story that there's a timeline. There's something happening behind the scenes. And if we're patient, we may not always see it, but if we know, it gives us the energy we need to get through the pain.
Absolutely.
And Hashem doesn't want us to suffer. Hashem doesn't want us to have to go through all these hardships. But I can imagine Hashem thinking or saying, or, you know, if you only just know what's on the other end, you'll be okay with this. If you just would know what's on the other end. Because
not just be okay with it, we'd want it. That's why Hashem wants it for us.
Okay, you know what? I have to experience this hardship and this hardship, but it means that I'm gonna be with my soulmate the rest of my life and have a beautiful marriage. Then okay, Hashem. You know, if we only just knew that there's something good coming out of it, and which I saw firsthand. Like I never for a second thought like, Hashem, why do you have to do this? Or like I was never upset with Hashem. I never was angry, or, you know, but I did think, Hashem, like, I really try my best to be a good person, so why? But now I really know, you know, now I know why I had to go through all of that stuff. And
what would you tell someone who doesn't feel like they know why yet?
I don't think we need to know why. I think we need to believe that something really good is gonna come, and then you're gonna look back at it and be like, okay, that could be the reason. It could be you don't see that yet, but there will come a point where you can really look back and realize that.
And even though it can be the hardest thing in the world to not know, the thing is already, and sometimes it's so difficult to process this, but the thing is already good even before we realize it. It was good the whole time in a way that we, you know, in certain cases, in many cases, just have so much trouble processing. And yeah, of course, it's not easy. I usually phrase it as, you know, there's a reason we say Gamzu Latova instead of Gamzu Beseder. You know, it's not just that whatever tough thing is acceptable. Of course it's obviously anything that happens is what Hashem wants to happen for whatever reason that we do or don't understand. But it's not just that it's okay. It's actually for the best, like you were saying. If we actually understood the deeper perspective, which eventually we'll all get that perspective, and often we get to get it in this world, and when we do see that perspective that Hashem already has, if we could see it, like you were saying, we would already be on board with it. And we have to know that it's as tough as it is, and of course we know some cases are extreme, but it's already actually not like I said, not just acceptable, it's actually already good. And if we can truly process that nothing happens by accident, and that Hashem only is doing good for us, it does.
It's a new life.
Yeah, it requires an incredible amount of emunah and bitachon, and we're not supposed to be perfect at it. You know, that's part of our, you know, and Hashem knows that we're not going to be perfect at it. And that's okay too. But if we look at all the times when we do get that perspective, every time we get that deeper perspective and and are blessed enough to see what it was the whole time, we always can, you know, if we can just appreciate those times that we do get to see how much of a blessing something really was, we can remember that it applies to everything. And we should all be so blessed to see that as soon as possible and in as many ways as possible. But it applies to all the ones we don't get to see in this world as well.
Yep. Such a good note, such a good practical tool. Look at God's track record. Look at what has worked, and borrow peace of mind from what has worked when you're faced with what doesn't seem to be working.
I have a really exciting announcement. I would like to welcome you to Live Better Academy, a course designed exclusively for single women who are done waiting, surviving, and feeling stuck with this perceived limited happiness that life seems to have. Now, I want to make something very clear. There are many self-help programs that indicate the following. If you are single, then there must be something wrong with you. This is not one of those programs. I'm not here to fix you because you're not broken. In a world that tells us that fulfillment and success begin with a relationship, Live Better Academy shows you the truth that happiness and purpose aren't on hold. They're actually here right now.
Utilizing science and empirical-based evidence, my course is about giving you the practical tools and insights and confidence to create the joy and fulfillment that you deserve on your terms. It's not about searching for what's missing. It's about uncovering the power that you already have to create the life that you want. And what better time to start than now, at the beginning of a new Jewish year? So if you've been feeling stuck in negativity or dissatisfaction, this is your chance to start fresh by joining Live Better Academy. And do it soon because it starts in 3 weeks. Register now to secure your limited spot so you can be ready to join on our first day on November 4th by making this new year one of true fulfillment and growth. To see if this course is the right fit for you, you can email me at tziporagrodko@gmail.com or send a quick text to 646-926-2323 for a free 15-minute consultation. Links will be in the show notes below. So join Live Better Academy and start living a life that is thriving and vibrant and uniquely yours, because your best life isn't in the future. It can actually be right here, right now.
Jace, I want to hear, once you converted, what was your dating experience like?
So it was very different. So in my case, I was still learning what the Orthodox world is at all, because, we can have our, having a relationship with Hashem is a wonderful thing. And of course the most wonderful thing, and having a, relationship with Torah is the most wonderful thing. But understanding Jewish communities, when you don't grow up in that, when you don't have siblings who grow up in that, when you don't have friends who grow up in that, when it's like an entire, like a
the culture.
Yeah.
Like the shidduch culture. You're like, I knew God, but I didn't know the shidduch culture.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. It's, if you compare it to, the secular dating culture, it's beautiful, but it's still so different. You don't know what to expect. You have no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
So I had almost the opposite situation where I had no idea what I wanted. I obviously I knew I wanted to find my other half. That's very clear that we want to find the person that Hashem intends for us. But what that meant and what that looked like, you have the first person tells you, opposites attract, so look for someone to balance you out. And then the very next person you speak to, who's just as wise and just as good of a trusted resource in every other way, says men and women are already different enough. Find someone who's as similar to you as possible, and don't worry, you'll have enough things to balance each other out. And it's all good advice, but it's okay. So now what am I looking for? I had no idea. So one of the things that I was thinking, when I first started going out and date after date after date, and different person. And at first I was like, you hear all these really cool stories about how, after this big climax of a journey and all these years and you hear all these stories about people who they went on one date, maybe 2 days, and all of a sudden they found the person right away, with how, sort of quickly my journey had grown over those years. I almost expected it to be that thing where, like, okay, and now you got out of the mikveh as a ger, now Hashem's gonna lead you right to the and at first I'm like, I wonder why that didn't happen. And then I very quickly realized, once again, talk about getting to see the blessings that we're really getting, that other than knowing I'm looking for my other half, I have no idea what that looks like. And I don't even know what from dating looks like at all. So it was actually one of the biggest blessings possible that it took a few years, because I got to genuinely see what I wasn't looking for. And not that there was really anything wrong with the girls I had gone out with. It just clearly wasn't my other half. And if I had met my other half the first date, I don't know if it would have been so clear. Maybe I would have just said, you know what, compared to dating in the secular world, clearly dating in the frum world's wonderful. And maybe that's the only reason this seems to be like it's going well, instead of saying this is actually my other half. But after seeing what is not your other half, it becomes increasingly clear. So that was actually a real blessing that it took a little while. And what I can say, though, that one of the only things that made it difficult, of course, was it's still not easy, especially when you're not, I'm not in the secular world, dating for marriage in a guy in early 30s is like practically considered young. But I mean, it's obviously in the Jewish dating world, that's not a young guy to be dating. So as the years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years is going on, it's, you're starting to wonder, like, not everyone does end up finding their other half in this world. And that's not, once again, in some way, that's exactly what Hashem wants. And it's also a blessing. It's not a punishment. And maybe it's possible that
you started putting yourself in that category.
Yeah. And not thinking that it wasn't going to happen. In fact, what I kept saying over and over again, and we've both, this is something that I think we both said a lot of, we say it a lot together now, and we said it a lot before, but whatever Hashem wants to happen is going to happen when he wants it to happen. And all we can do is our best, our hashtadlus, and that's it. And that's, I don't want to act like either of us are perfect at it. Certainly, I'll speak for myself. It's not about being perfect about it, but that was really the thing I kept telling myself. I wasn't getting discouraged. It's hard to be encouraged also, because of course you ask the question, you say, okay, if every person ever found their other half, well, of course I'm going to. But it's not that not everyone in this world gets to experience, this lifetime gets to experience that. So, okay, is it possible? Sure. But once again, whatever Hashem wants to happen is going to happen.
That was your comforting thought.
And always I knew that, what, on the chance that is me, don't be depressed about it. On the small chance that Hashem doesn't want me to find that person in this world in this lifetime, then that's also in some way for the best. So
you were able to come to peace with that?
Peace with it to the best of my ability. I don't know what it would have been like to actually experience that 10, 20 years into dating. And of course, a lot of the shadchanim I worked with, which I guess I'll get to in a second, when you're 34 or 33, I guess at the time, and a couple of years, even when you're in your 30s already in dating, not that that's a problem, but of course, a lot of the shadchanim are already, no matter how much they know that I only started dating at 31, because of I can't date before I, finish Geras, but there's still this idea that we have that, okay, everyone kind of in the back of our head when we're not thinking carefully about it has been dating since they were 18. And therefore, early 30s means that this guy has been, I don't know, maybe he's too picky. Maybe he's looking for the wrong things. Maybe maybe there's something we just don't know about that's wrong with him, or, I'd only been dating for a year or two, so like I'm fresh into it. But it's got to be hard. And I have to stick up with the shadchanim. It must be hard for them to work with someone. It's not like I was working with people who exclusively work with geras and fully realized, okay, it hasn't been that long. Like he's not being overly picky. There's not something crazy, weird, wrong. But
you're highlighting an important idea, which is when we don't understand something, we tend to be judgmental.
And and that's what, and it was really kind of the default thing. And that's what made things a little bit complicated, I suppose. Obviously, everything worked out exactly how it was supposed to work out when Hashem wanted it to work out. At the same time, I think the toughest thing that I had with shadchanim, making recommendations was just this concept of not necessarily looking at what would be a good match for me as a person, and being maybe a little bit focused on what makes sense on the perceived level of quality. So like basically, okay, so this person's a ger and they're not in their 20s anymore. Therefore, it has to be only recommend girls who are divorced or a little off the derech or have kids. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with people who are divorced, obviously. Nothing wrong with people who are struggling with the derech. We all have our own challenges, and some of us, those challenges look harder than others. And that doesn't mean that the person's not a big tzaddik inside, and there's nothing wrong with the having kids part. But the idea of saying, well, because she has a few kids and because you're a ger in your 30s, forget the personality matching. They're both, they
both have something that stands out that's not typical. So that's the math. And it could feel offensive and insulting to feel like other people are limiting your options because of the value. I think that is a value that's out there.
Sure.
You may have experienced it yourself as someone that was previously married, that the math is someone in this category is getting that type of option. Someone in this category gets those limited options. And we can't think outside of that.
Sure. And you know what, even if they had considered those exact same options and said, okay, so even if they'd still factored that in, but still said, but we need the personalities, we still need to look for, okay, maybe this considered, how do these personalities match? How would these people work together? Even if they had still factored the other part in, that would have prevented a lot of, bad 100%. Recommendations. Because it's, I see where they're coming, where they're like falling into on that, but then to not focus on the more important part, which is, regardless of where these people stand, do they fit together in any obvious way? Are their personalities at all compatible seemingly? And I did have some, people making good suggestions in the sense that I see where they were coming from. It could have been a good thing based on
Chase is very kind and politically correct. Chase, it's so important. And I'm really glad you shared it. And it's insight. A lot of what our podcast does is provides education based on collective data.
Sure.
So I hope that people hear this. It's syndicated. And then we just do better. That's all we want to do.
Absolutely.
We just want to do better. So when Tehila was suggested to you and she was previously married, was that something that bothered you? Is that something that was irrelevant to you? Because
I still
we want to expand that as well.
Yeah, I still remember him suggesting it, and I guess
we didn't talk.
Oh
about,
yeah, I said who him
we
is.
Talk about how we.
So please tell us. Yes, tell us how you met. We'll start with Tehila. Tehila, tell us how you met Chase, the convert from Deal.
So the story of how we met, the one that actually suggested both of us, was my father's charusa. So he actually learned with my father 2 hours before he passed away. He was really close with my father. He loved my father. And I may not be quoting this exact, but he did say something like he knew there was something he needed to do for my father or wanted to do for my father.
The person who introduced us was the local to Monsey and much beloved by us. And our families, Rabbi Baruch Yonah Jacobowitz. And his father, though I knew him somewhat, his father is my local beloved in the Long Branch Deal area, Rabbi Jacobowitz. And him and his wife really were like one of the hugest roles in sort of welcoming me into the community when I was on my journey. And I used to eat by them very regularly, and for whatever reason, for a few years, maybe a year or so, I had just, every time they invited me, I just accepted a different invitation, and of course they kept inviting because they're such sweet people. And finally, I had some lunch plans fall through, and I was in shul with Rabbi Jacobowitz, and he says, "Are you?" Let me guess, you probably have plans already, but did you want to join us for the meal? And I said, actually, they just fell through. I'd love to join you for the meal. I was supposed to be here, but here, no, it's wonderful. Okay, so I go there, and his son, Rabbi Baruch Yonah, who's our actual shadchan, is also there. So anyway, I get to the meal, and Rabbi Baruch Yonah's there, who also, I forget the details, but also had some sort of other plans that were supposed to happen for him and ended up at the same Shabbos table with me for, he had been there, meals, but it had been long to him even longer that I had, since I had seen him. It's very nice to see him. We were talking, little shidduchim, that came up, and that was that, had a beautiful meal. Anyway, later that week, he says, Chase, I think I have a shidduch, recommendation for you. Open to hear it. And I said, sure. I mean, it was interesting because this is one of the first points that I had just been on so many dates recently with different people that just really weren't that great of suggestions, and nice people, but just not great suggestions as far as dating goes. And he, so I like sort of reluctantly, obviously it wasn't that I was discouraged. I was just like, okay, here's another resume, fine. And I still remember I opened it up, and it was the first time there was a picture of Tahila in the front. The first thing was a picture, and right away it just something hit me very differently. And of course, it wasn't, it wasn't even a physical attractiveness thing, because that's, a whole nother thing. That it wasn't not that, but it certainly wasn't what hit me. Just something for the first time felt right. Like I never had a feeling of opening up any other resume. And I was looking, and it was extremely minimal. Mine was like pretty extensive in comparison, but it was like, wasn't that much information there written, but I just right away had a good feeling. And what he had said before he sent it to me, I take a quick step back because you had asked about this. Before he ever sent it to me, he said, are you open to, before I sent it, are you open to dating someone who's divorced? Which was really nice, because instead of saying, oh, you may as well date someone who's divorced because you're open to it, just, being very, and I said, I think Hashem put the right thought in my mind, which, or heart, or however we want to say it, that I said to him, is she divorced for the right reasons? Because with no offense to people, but some people are in their journeys.
It's a really great question.
Some people get and once again, this is not an insult to them, but some people get divorced because they're not looking for the right things. In that, like, we, like I see everywhere constantly in the secular world, a person's looking for something that automatically feels right. They're not looking to build something. They're just looking for the spark that feels right. And then the spark doesn't burn as bright on its own without you tending to it. And so that lust and that instant thing, and then they get divorced, and they marry someone else with another spark, and then they get divorced.
You were using your secular background to deduce whether or not was a good decision. And
as soon as I said, was it for the right reasons? And he like stopped me right away. He was like, this was as right of a reasons as it gets. He was like, this was not someone who's this is someone who's absolutely looking for the right things. I was like, well, in that case, I don't consider it a negative at all. Like that's someone's looking for the right things, and they just happen to have a divorce in their journey. That's, to me, whatever. That if that's what Hashem wants, that's fine. I just didn't want to, say yes to someone who, maybe, because I didn't know him that well, so I didn't know why he was making the suggestion. Anyway, when he said that, I was like, no problem at all. So then I
love that. I love that answer. I always, my friends know I feel this way, because when single friends are together, they talk about these kinds of things. I have so much more respect for someone that's been through divorce.
Sure.
And everyone goes through challenge. Some are public and some are more hidden. And this is just one that's more public. And that requires so much growth. And you're knowing that whoever I'm with, of course, always in healthy situations, has done so much work.
Yeah.
That's all we want in a relationship.
Yeah. And absolutely. So I was like, yeah, that's no problem at all. Of course, he gives me the resume. Then I have that reaction where it just sort of hit me, right in the neshama, which happened a few times in our dating, and yeah. So I said yes pretty quickly. He and Tehila were both kind of surprised, apparently, by how quickly I said yes. But like I said, usually I would have done more research. I would have contacted more references, but I trusted him that he wouldn't recommend it if it wasn't a good idea, at least a safe
and you had this feeling.
And I just had this feeling like, what, as long as this isn't something dangerous,
And when cheese was suggested to you, here you said, I always thought I'd end up with a Baal Tshuva or a convert. What was your instinct?
So there was something about also his picture that also hit me. There was something about the way he wrote his description on his resume. There was just something about him that was different. And Baruch Hashem, I had a lot of suggestions all the time, which is wonderful. I know a lot of people don't. But a lot of them was looking at the resume, no. Looking at the resume, no. Like a lot of it, I nixed a lot. You can't go out every single night, But there's just something about Chase's resume that just like Chase said, just hit my neshama, just hit our neshama. And
what ended up being extra wild too is that, of course, Hashem works in such incredible ways. So Rabbi Baruch Yonah also ended up being the first shidduch he ever made. We didn't realize at the time, but the fact that he went out of his way to do this. So we found out, after we were going to be getting engaged, that we actually had a couple people, one in particular who make, recommend lots of shidduchim and actually do really well with it, that we happen to have mutual connections with.
Suggested the two
And
of
for
you.
whatever reason, Hashem put it out of their heads that they shouldn't recommend it because it was the wrong time, and then sends someone who's never made a shidduch before to like put it together. And even so much so that when we told these people that who we were, going to be marrying, they were just like, that was such an obvious choice. I can't believe it. That was like
Because it wasn't the right time.
and it
then.
wasn't the right time. If they had put it together sooner, okay, would we have found each other sooner? Sure. Would the struggle and the stress and the this and the that and the worry and the uncertainty, and would that have been over sooner? Sure, but maybe it wouldn't have worked out. It wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
And of course, the second that it was the right time, all of a sudden Hashem sends someone who's never made a shidduch to make a shidduch, and it just goes to show that it's
all about
yeah.
timing and delivery. And Tehila mentioned that this man, it was like he took it upon himself as
Yes.
his mission to set you up. And that's why it had to be him, like
Mhm.
his promise to your father.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned to me before that Chase has strange similarities to your dad, right?
Yes, it's so interesting. A lot of things are scary. Like there's certain mannerisms that Chase does that actually made my sister cry when she first saw it.
Wow. This episode has been really special. I think that your story highlights to those that are searching that even when we don't know, there's something happening behind the scenes.
Yes.
That is
Absolutely.
only preparing you to be in the right place at the right time. You've been so open and honest about your challenge, what got you through it. You have been so open and honest about your experience and how people can learn and do better. And I'm so grateful that you drove in on a Friday from Deal, New Jersey to share your beautiful story of hope with us. Thank you so much.
It's
Thank you
our
for
pleasure.
having
Thank you
us.
for having us.
Thank you for watching another episode of Stories of Hope. If you like this episode, you know what to do. Let us know by emailing us at soh@meaningfulminute.org or leaving a comment in the comment section below. Once again, if you want a chance to win $200, let us know who is someone in Jewish history that you would like to sit down and meet, have coffee with, wine, good old-fashioned cake and cookies, you name it. Who is someone that comes to mind that you would like to meet? Let us know in the comment section below. I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for everything you've done to continue to make Stories of Hope everything that it is, that we hope it to be, and that we'll continue to strive for. Thank you.